So the scripture is Matthew 26 verses 14 through 16, and I'm reading from the ESV. It says, "Then one of the 12, whose name was Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, 'What will you give me if I deliver him over to you?' And they paid him 30 pieces of silver. And from that moment, he saw an opportunity to betray him."
Okay.
That's heavy.
Yeah, that's a lot there. There's a lot there. Well, first off, what I like about this is we don't know a lot about Judas. We don't see too many encounters or interactions. But what we do know about him, this instance, I want to say he was the same one that tried to stop the woman from anointing Jesus' body because he wanted to sell that ointment that was being used. And also we know that he was the one of the 12. He was one of the 12 in Jesus. Where we at here? Before then, we also know that he is the one that is going to betray him, and Jesus actually calls him friend at that time, and he says, "Friend, do what you're going to do quickly." So Jesus calls him friend. And like I said, with those few details, and I feel like what happens here is God is giving us an insight to the relationship. Like we see the relationship between Jesus and Judas, but God is also giving us the insight, and it also give us backdrop of God and Satan.
Okay.
But that's not why we're here. But just to know all that. As far as the finance side of it, I think what's interesting about this is, you read it, I think you said Judas was the one that went to the chief, and he kind of offered up, "What will you give me?" Mm-hmm. So it seems, kind of bringing it to common day, it seems like Judas already might have had a amount in mind. If he would have said 2 or something, like, okay, that's not enough. But he said 30, and we know that was enough. And because it said at that moment, he saw it as an opportunity once he got the response back of how much he was going to get in return for this. Okay, so, and I feel like that speaks to us today because, we don't sit down with a lot of people and we know that this was a bad decision by Judas. Mm-hmm. Because of I don't know what his financial status was, but wasn't he also like, out of the 12, wasn't he the one who kept something, right? Like related to money? I sound so uneducated. That's okay. I just put myself out there. This is recorded, so
that's okay.
I'm
okay with not knowing everything.
We'll have to look it up.
Okay.
And if
I was gonna say, I think
drop the verse.
He's the one who kept something like money related.
Treasury type of clerk type thing.
I believe so. If we misspeak, it's okay. We'll correct ourselves in the caption.
Yeah, we'll put
like,
the verse.
This is not true.
Yeah,
yes. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
But we are seeing people sell stuff for money or whatnot, and a lot of times there was, we talk to them and they say, I don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. But yet there's a return on the other side that is intriguing to them, and so they resort to doing it. But you know what I'm saying, like they don't want to be in that situation. And even here, Judas don't even get to enjoy his reward of the 30, because we know what happens to him shortly after. That guilt comes and he goes and commit suicide. Mm-hmm. So the same thing with us. We don't have people, and it's like, making a nice change, a nice lump sum of money, but yet they're unhappy because of how they're going about doing it, and because of the decision that they made, because of the situation that they're in financially, and they feel like, I have to do this because this is the only way I can make things meet. So that's what I think about. And then just to look at this, like I said, Jesus calls him friend. We don't see money destroy relationships. Mm-hmm. We don't see from families to friends. We don't see people hold grudges, and it can be as small as $20 from 10, 15, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So that aspect of it too. So that's what all comes to my mind.
Yeah, it's a lot. But also, right, God is very intentional, right? And everything that he does and the way that every event took place in the Bible was intentional. And so we know that Jesus loved him, right? And because of that, there's so much talk about, like, did he, where did he go? Like, did he actually go to heaven? Did he go to hell? Right? We're not going to get into those sort of conversations. But what I think is extremely intentional is that God could have really allowed that to play out in regards to anything, right? Like, he could have betrayed him for anything. It could have been a woman. It could have been,
right.
you get
out of all things.
Out of all things, it was money related. And then you think back to the scripture that we talked about last time, right? I think we put it in the video or we mentioned it, but how it says that money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil, right? And so that is just one of so many ways that the Bible is so consistent and God is so thorough, and that when I tell you something, I'm not just going to tell you, I'm also going to show you, right? Like, here is an example. I mean, we could go so many ways with that, but that
shows you how important money or finances is. Like you're just saying. You know what I'm saying? Because now, like we say, out of all ways, for this to be the way.
Well, and to your point, I believe, gosh, I'm like really putting myself out there today because I should have probably restudied.
It's late, guys.
Yes, but I was going to say, because isn't it that he, didn't he buy like land with the money that he actually received? Something like that, right? Like, he went and bought land, I believe is what it says. So to your point, right, I was just kind of supporting and saying that, yes, from a financial standpoint, right, what that lets me know, although the Bible doesn't necessarily state it, is that he didn't have the resources prior to that event to do that. And so maybe buying land is something that he always wanted to do. He didn't have the means to do it. This happens, and okay, now I have the means to do it. So, just really to support what you're saying. But just to kind of circle back, it's just like, so much there, but there's definitely a reason. It's super intentional, and God is perfect with his word, right? But like, yeah, it could have been anything, and it was money. And I think also too, like, when we read this, it sort of, like, you read it and you're like, 30 pieces of silver though, Judas, right? But it's like let's translate that into our times, right? Because this actually happened, obviously, when it happened, but this was enough money to buy land. So like, not diminishing it because it's so not within our context, right? Like today, but okay, 2 million, right? Like, almost not changing what's there because we don't change scripture, but just understanding that it was enough to be tempted, right?
I'm saying, and like I was saying, that there's a number for everything. It shouldn't be that way, but everybody has like I said, some people diving into the things that they don't want to be in, but there was a number that was intriguing enough that was like, I'm gonna go get into that. I'm gonna pursue that. So the same thing here, like I said, I don't know, we don't know what number he had in his mind. Maybe it was 15, and when they said 30, it's like, oh, that's way beyond what, and because for you to state a question like that, oh, how much, kind of like, how much would you give me if I, so he probably already had a number in mind. And I wonder if he did have a number, and if it was lower than what he had in mind, if he still would have did it, or he would have been like, nah, too low, not high enough, or would he, the characteristics of the enemy, would his greed still be like, I'm gonna do it anyway? If it was 2, 3, it's lower than what the greed in me, I'm gonna go get that.
Okay, well, last thought about this on my end is
this is the opening?
I
this
know,
ain't part of one of your questions?
I know. We're kind of like
podcast is over.
Just here, but I was gonna say, so just to make it interesting, right? What will you give me if I deliver him over to you? He wasn't even specifically saying what amount of money, right? So again, if you would have just offered me the piece of land that I wanted, that would have been enough. And so it ties right back into this love of things, the accumulation of things that can do nothing for us, right? Oh, so much. But yes, we have to move on.
Yeah, we might have to come back to that.
Yes.
Another time.